Down. Love or lust? Down. All of us.
Give me a run for my money. There was nobody, no one that'll run me.
Kendrick Lamar's 2017 album Damn is an absolute masterpiece of hip-hop. It's one of the most successful albums ever. It's won award after award. The BET Award for Album of the Year, the Grammy for Best Rap Album, and even the Pulitzer Prize, the crown jewel of literature. Damn is basically a household name within hip-hop, and it's even been said that it might be one of the most influential works of the century. And yet, as successful as it is, Damn doesn't really feel like traditional hip-hop. There are no stories about overcoming one's poverty or a rags to riches hustle. Instead, Damn tells us a story about religion and morality. The story centers around the curse of Deuteronomy. In the Christian Bible, this is the story that prophesizes death and suffering as God's punishment for sin. The way Kendrick describes the curse of Deuteronomy is horrifying. It isn't fire raining down from the sky or a thunderous flood that drowns entire continents. No, instead, the curse is slower and much more patient. Your childhood innocence will be robbed by violence and abuse. Your relationships will feel superficial and hollow. You'll strive for success, but your closest friends will betray you. You will never experience peace. The curse is patient and as inevitable as time itself. Throughout the story, it slowly chips away at Kendrick's sanity, like a mold growing in the walls of a home, until he feels completely helpless. He writes, "I can feel it.
The Phoenix sure to watch us. I can feel it, the dream is more than process. I can build a regime that forms a likeness. I can feel it, the scream that haunts our logic."
This kind of subject matter is basically unheard of for a commercially successful album. Damn is extremely unconventional. And yet, when listening to this album, I feel totally immersed in a way that I haven't felt with almost any other music. Its twists and turns are gripping, its production is gut-wrenchingly elegant, and its music is so vivid that at times I feel as though I was living in the curse myself. Damn is one of Kendrick Lamar's best works, and it's one of the best albums of hip-hop of all time. It is truly a storytelling masterpiece.
Living lovely. She's lovely.
I wanna be with you. Ay. I wanna be with. I wanna be with you. Ay. I wanna be with. I wanna be with you.
Me, just love me.
If I didn't ride blade on curve, would you still?
Love me.
If I'm in my mind at work, would you still?
Lovely.
Damn is unconventional in several ways. For one thing, there are basically no identifiable characters other than the narrator. And even more, there aren't really clear events either. In this story, things don't really happen. Instead, this story explores a set of ideas. Okay, so a quick heads up. So the plot of Damn is pretty complicated and pretty dense. Unfortunately, I won't be able to cover all of it here, and so I really strongly recommend that you go and listen to the album for yourself. I mean, really, it's one of the best pieces of music I've ever heard. But for now, I have to cover some of the most important parts of the plot right here because they're going to come up later. At the beginning of the story, Kendrick feels cursed by God. Why he's cursed is not really important, but what he knows for sure is that he has already been marked for death from the moment he was born. Damn is essentially a story about how Kendrick responds to this curse. How do you live out your life knowing that you could die at any moment? There are a couple choices. On one hand, Kendrick can choose to be defiant and stubborn, living out his life on his own terms until, inevitably, at some point, he will meet the end that was chosen for him by God. This option is aggressive and defiant, and it's described as wickedness. The other option is kind of the opposite. Kendrick can choose to submit himself fully to the curse and to God. He can try to live his life as sinlessly and as obediently as possible, and just hope that at some point God will spare him from the curse as a reward for his behavior. This option is passive, and it's described as weakness. The choice between wickedness and weakness is the central conflict of this album. Damn has 12 songs, which appear in pairs. Each pair of songs follows the same pattern. The first song in each pair aligns with wickedness, and the second song in each pair aligns with weakness. For example, the first pair of songs in the album is DNA and Ya. DNA discusses Kendrick's identity. In this song, he's aggressive and arrogant and confident. Kendrick is confidently owning all of the sinful and aggressive behaviors that make him him. His lavish career, his hostility toward other rappers and people in the industry. DNA very clearly aligns with wickedness. However, the second song in the pair, Ya, has kind of the opposite vibe. In Ya, Kendrick is unconfident. He's worried about the future. All of a sudden, he doesn't have very good prospects about his future career or his life. Ya aligns clearly with weakness. The rest of this album follows this pattern as well. The first pair, DNA and Ya, discussed Kendrick's identity. After that, Pride and Humble discusses his reputation, again with the pattern of wickedness and weakness. After that, Lust and Love discuss Kendrick's behavior. And finally, Fear and God, they discuss the curse itself, and again, Kendrick's responses of wickedness and weakness. In between these, there are a couple sections that don't really fit well into pairs, but they roughly follow this pattern too. This story isn't linear. The progression doesn't just follow a straightforward line from wickedness to weakness. Instead, the structure of the story being told in pairs forces the listener to really pay close attention to the patterns throughout. The effect of this is that Damn fully immerses us inside the story. We, the listener, experience thoughts and feelings as Kendrick Lamar. This structure emphasizes that everything, including the themes of identity or reputation or behavior, everything lives inside this duality between wickedness and weakness. This is the most important element of the story. When I was listening to this album, the alternating patterns between wickedness and weakness really made me feel the balance between the two. I felt like I was living inside the curse myself. Damn is a great example of nonlinear storytelling. It uses pairs of themes to tell a story, rather than a traditional chronology. But there are other ways to change the structure of a story as well. 2000's Memento follows Leonard Shelby as he tries to find and kill John G., the man who murdered his wife. Lenny has a rare and interesting medical condition. Following a serious head injury, he can't make new memories.
No. It's different from that. I have no short-term memory. I know who I am. I know all about myself. Since my injury, I can't make new memories. Everything fades. If we talk for too long, I'll forget how we started. And next time I see you, I'm not going to remember this conversation.
Lenny never knows where he is or what he's doing.
Oh, I'm chasing this guy. No, he's chasing me.
And to mirror this, the story of Memento is told backwards, or more precisely, in a sequence of few-minute-long segments, which together go backwards. If we visualize the timeline of the story, the first segment starts at the end, and the next segment happens before that one, and the next one before that, and so on and so forth, until the story ends at the beginning. Lenny lives his day-to-day life by writing himself notes on little pieces of paper, on the backs of Polaroid photos, and on his own body. Lenny's notes are his best and only source of information in his world, and he lives and dies by them. Throughout the movie, Lenny trusts his notes more than anything else.
You can't trust a man's life to your little notes and pictures.
Why not?
Because your notes could be unreliable.
Memory's unreliable.
Oh, please.
No, really. Memory's not perfect. It's not even that good. Ask the police. Eyewitness testimony is unreliable.
Lenny's only purpose in life, his only reason for living, is to find John G. And in order to do this, he enlists help from two friends named Teddy and Natalie. Teddy and Natalie both give Lenny information, and he relies on them for help. But a recurring question throughout Memento is whether Lenny can actually trust either of these two.
Something doesn't feel right. I think someone's fucking with me, trying to get me to kill their own guy.
Did you?
And interestingly, we, the audience, don't really know either. Remember, the story is told in reverse. So when these two characters of Teddy and Natalie are first introduced on screen, Lenny has already interacted with them several times already. But we haven't heard or seen any of those conversations yet. We have no idea what events led up to the present moment. And so, this format of storytelling essentially makes us experience things as Lenny. For the audience, it's as if our memory has been erased too. Memento raises some interesting moral questions. For example, in one scene, Lenny burns some of his wife's old items as a way of memorializing her. He finds a sense of emotional peace from doing this, or at least he does until his memory resets. But then, in the next scene, which again happens before the burning, we find out that these items were actually fake. Lenny had them intentionally placed around his bedroom while he slept, so that when he woke up and his memory reset, he could live through this fantasy of mourning his wife. So Lenny is intentionally lying to himself. But also, consider this. The entire time in this movie, Lenny has been trying to find and kill John G. But in the event that he actually does find and kill him, he's not going to remember that it happened. In fact, he's not even going to know that John G is dead. And so in this case, he'll have revenge, but not the sense of satisfaction. In this case, does it really even matter? Memento is told with a backwards timeline, which means that the beginning of the movie takes place at the end of the timeline. And in the movie's first scene, we see that Lenny does indeed kill John G. Or rather, he kills Teddy, the fake friend that John G was posing as in order to try to trick Lenny. And the rest of the movie moves backwards and explains the sequence of events that led up to the gunshot. Before he killed John G, it feels like we, the audience, are unraveling a puzzle. But when we reach the beginning of the timeline, there's a huge twist. Teddy is actually not the real John G. The real John G was already found and killed by Lenny many years ago. He just doesn't remember. But Lenny needed a purpose in life, a reason to keep going, a reason to live. And so, he wrote a false clue on the back of his picture. Something that would give him in the future another puzzle to solve, another John G to chase. This time around, that false John G just happened to be Teddy.
Do I lie to myself to be happy? In your case, Teddy, yes, I will.
Ironically, Lenny spends most of this movie trying to figure out whether it was Teddy or Natalie who was trying to trick him. But in reality, the only one who was manipulating him the whole time was himself. The chronology being inverted doesn't just invert time, it changes judgment as well. Early on in the movie, Lenny decides to trust Natalie simply because his picture of her says that she will help him. Like here, in the bottom left corner. Later on, Lenny decides to kill Teddy, again, because his picture of him says to do so. Because of his lack of memory, Lenny is forced to make judgment decisions about other people based on limited information, sometimes without having the full picture. In the same way, we, the audience, are also forced to judge Lenny. Early on in the movie, it's really easy to sympathize with him. We know that Lenny wants to avenge his wife. We know that he constantly has to worry about other people trying to trick and manipulate him. But it's only later on in the movie that we really see the full picture. Lenny wants to feel like he's avenging his wife more than he actually wants true justice. And on top of that, he's willing to kill innocent people in order to maintain this lie. In this way, Memento forces us, the audience, to reconsider our previous judgments. Memento is famous for feeling like a puzzle. Throughout this movie, we, the audience, constantly have to unravel clues from the future in order to figure out information about the past. And in this essay, I've also done something similar. You see, I've hidden a message somewhere within the last few minutes of this section. And when you're done watching this video, I think that you should go back and try to find it. The first clue happens this many seconds before now. I want to tell you about one of my favorite science fiction novels, Amal El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone's This Is How You Lose the Time War. In this story, set in the far future, there are two huge alien civilizations that are at war with each other. Two agents in this war are referred to only as Red and Blue, and they fight for opposite sides. This war spans across many thousands of different galaxies and many different planets, and also many different timelines. They can time travel, and they warp back and forth between different timelines, each trying to tweak the past in order to sway the future toward their side, kind of like a butterfly effect. For example, in one timeline, Blue infects someone on Earth with an aggressive virus, and in a few years, there will be a global pandemic. Red and Blue are often trying to undo or sabotage each other's work, and at some point, they start to leave each other letters after each mission in order to taunt and insult each other. The hydraulics in your spherical flanking maneuver were truly superb. I hope you'll take comfort from the knowledge that they'll be thoroughly digested by our mulchers, such that our next victory against your side will have a little piece of you in it. Red hits back, of course, and this kicks off a cycle. Red and Blue start leaving letters for each other after every mission. Over time, however, the tone of these letters starts to change. Instead of insults, they start telling jokes, and they start asking about each other's travels through the galaxies. We learn about the various lives that Red and Blue have lived on Earth. For example, we learn about the time in 13th century Mongolia when Blue became childhood best friends with a young Genghis Khan. And many centuries before that, we learn about the time that Red participated in the assassination of Julius Caesar while living as a Roman senator. As it turns out, despite working for different sides, Red and Blue have a lot in common. They both get to see many different planets and explore the cosmos and see many different galaxies, but they also have no real freedom, no real personal autonomy in their missions. They're both under such tight control and surveillance by their commanders all the time, and they're both micromanaged so tightly that they have no real energy or no time to really enjoy their experiences on Earth or enjoy their experiences in space. You know, to really live. Their humanity has been stripped away into nothing more than just a very small piece in a very large war. And so, Red and Blue find solace in each other. I like writing you. I like reading you. When I finish your letters, I spend frantic hours in secret composing my replies, pondering ways to send them. A factory within me will smell any drug I seek, but there's a rush in reading and sending against which no drug compares. Red and Blue haven't been allowed by their commanders to even take a break for hundreds of years, maybe even thousands. But in their letters to each other, they begin to find small moments of peace. As it turns out, they're the only beings in the entire universe who really, truly understand each other. Over many letters, they fall in love. So, This Is How You Lose the Time War is not really a story about war. It's really a story about the relationship between these two characters, Red and Blue. And most of the story is told through these letters. In fact, most of the plot happens in these letters. This is where we find out how Red and Blue sleep, how they eat, and how their societies work. I want to clarify something here. The actual missions that Red and Blue carry out are not really that important. The idea of the story is that they can travel back and forth throughout time, and they sort of jump around and leave their letters all over the place. And so the story just kind of jumps around between many thousands of years. For example, the first letter of the story is left on some alien planet in some really distant, faraway galaxy. And then the second letter of the story is left on present-day Earth. At some point, we travel way back in time, all the way to the time of dinosaurs. And then later in the story, at some point, we travel forward again to 17th century Europe. The timing of this story is intentionally confusing. It's really hard, almost impossible to keep track of. And you see, that's kind of exactly the point, because the only part of this story that's actually told in order is this sequence of letters. This format of storytelling is very intentional, because at heart, This Is How You Lose the Time War is a story about a relationship between Red and Blue. It doesn't need much in the way of a consistent setting, or even a traditional plot. The point here is that a love story doesn't really need a straightforward sequence of events. Intimacy is built off of abstract things like emotions, or an individual's thought processes, or gradual changes in an individual's tone. By focusing only on the structure of the conversation, This Is How You Lose the Time War has isolated the most important element of the plot, which is Red and Blue's attitudes toward each other. By removing everything else, including even the timeline itself, this story has completely eliminated the need for a linear chronology, or really, for any chronology at all. I have something to confess. I may have lied to you. You see, earlier on in this video, I told you that Kendrick Lamar's Damn consisted of 12 songs. In reality, there's one song at the end that I did not mention, and also one at the beginning. In reality, there are 14 songs, and there's actually a bit more to the story. So let's recap what I told you about Damn. If you recall, the main idea of this album is that Kendrick Lamar is cursed by God. He chooses between two possible responses: wickedness, stubbornly living out his life, or weakness, submitting himself to the curse and just hoping for forgiveness. Throughout the album, in each pair of songs, Kendrick moves from wickedness to weakness. He repeatedly submits himself to God. And so this is all still true, but it's not the whole picture.
Are we gonna live or die?
Let's see how the album really starts. So, Blood, the first song on the album, tells us a story. Kendrick is taking a walk one day on the street, and he sees a blind woman who appears to have dropped something. When he crosses the street to try to help her, She shoots and kills him. Yeah, that's right. This album begins with the death of Kendrick Lamar. As it turns out, this story is actually just a foreshadowing of the curse. God is basically warning Kendrick that if he doesn't change his sinful ways, that this will be his end. The last song in the album, Duckworth, also tells a story. When Kendrick was just a child, his father, Duckworth, or Ducky, knew a violent gang member named Anthony. At some point, word got around that Anthony was planning to rob the fast food restaurant that Ducky was working at. In response, Ducky started sneaking him free food, being nice to him. He tried to befriend Anthony. In the end, this ended up working. Anthony spared him and didn't rob the restaurant. And so, in this case, Ducky narrowly avoided death. This changes everything. Throughout the entire story, we thought that Kendrick was cursed to die. But as it turns out, many years ago, his father already managed to break the curse by befriending Anthony and avoiding death. And so, in this story, Kendrick just spent the entire album moving from wickedness to weakness, and in the end, he ends up surviving. But pay attention to this last line. If Anthony killed Ducky, I'd grow up without a father and die in a gunfight. Let's just think about this other possibility for a second. What would have happened if Anthony had actually robbed the restaurant and had killed Ducky in the process? Well, in this case, the curse would not have been broken. This is the huge plot twist of Damn. In this case, the story is played in reverse.
Are we gonna live or die?
Everything still fits if we listen to the album backwards. The whole story still makes sense. In the forward listen of Damn, Kendrick was moving from wickedness to weakness. And now, in the reversed backward listen, he moves from weakness to wickedness. Every pair of songs is reversed now too. Now, in the backward listen, the first song in each pair corresponds to weakness, and the second song corresponds to wickedness. As we move through this album, Kendrick is getting angrier, more arrogant, more sinful. And then finally, in the last song of the album, Blood, he dies. Previously, in the forward listen, Kendrick getting shot in blood represented foreshadowing. But now it's literal. God punishes him for adopting wickedness by carrying out the curse and killing him. And now, and only now at this point, do we see the full beauty of this album. Damn tells us a story both forwards and backwards simultaneously. The two directions of listening give us opposite perspectives. In the forward listen of this album, Kendrick ends up surviving the curse, and in the backward listen, he dies. Earlier in the video, I told you that Damn is a story that is told in pairs. Each song is part of a pair that corresponds to the conflict between wickedness and weakness. This gives a really elegant structure to the story. But now we see an even deeper layer. The story itself is also part of a pair. The forward direction of listening corresponds to weakness, and the backward direction of listening corresponds to wickedness. It might be natural to think of nonlinear storytelling as something that's unconventional. We feel like a plot that's told out of order or backwards should fundamentally change the structure. But actually, I argue that we should be thinking about this in a different way. You see, the best stories that we can tell and the best stories that we can hear are the ones that are interesting to us, but also simultaneously twist our imagination. For example, Damn is revolutionary in hip-hop because of its unique simultaneous forward and backward structure, but also because of its depth and nuance. This Is How You Lose the Time War is unique in the science fiction genre because of its letter-based format, but also because it has a very creative and novel approach to romance. And lastly, Memento is the film that kickstarted the career of legendary director Christopher Nolan. In the years after the film, Christopher Nolan would go on to experiment with other forms of nonlinear storytelling, and this would eventually lead him to produce legendary classic movies like Tenet, Inception, and The Prestige. In many ways, these kinds of stories demand more from the audience than traditional media. Memento needs to be watched several times in order to fully understand its details. And Damn is also not a really easy listen. But in my opinion, this kind of effort is fully necessary in order to really fully appreciate the structure of nonlinear storytelling. Storytelling is fundamentally about challenging our imaginations. And the most influential stories throughout history have been great because they push our expectations. It's crucial that we give nonlinear stories a deep, nuanced perspective to fully appreciate their plots, fundamentally for what they are. Anything less would simply leave too much to be desired.